Do 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 do. I have decided to go 5 minutes early. Hi everyone. My screen up here. You're all flooding in. Hopefully flooding in to watch. I haven't been live for about a week. And I'm 5 minutes early. That's 5. Screen to make sure that I am live. There I am. Like my. Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm going live a little bit. The question is, am I live? Yes, you are, Jeff Applehot. You are live. I'm gonna wait for people to join the stream. Hi everybody. I hope you're all well, and I hope you're all staying safe, and hopefully staying at home if you can. Hi Chris Foster. Multi-tracker says volume so low. Turn your volume up then, mate. Mine says it's fine. Could be a little loud, I suppose. I don't think I can get louder. I can get louder. There I am. How about that? Hi, Canning. Hi, Canning. Cool. That's better size trackers. Wicked. Have a look how many people are watching. We are up to 25 people watching now. 13 likes. Please hit the like button if you are watching, everybody. I have got a few things I want to get through and get off my chest. I am back in the office, so to speak, working from home. I have spent the last couple of weeks, as I mentioned in my stream last week, I have spent the last couple of weeks looking after my health, number one, and trying to get my health sorted and in shape. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Hi, Steve. How's it going? Slow News Day is in the chat, everybody. Go subscribe to Action for Assange and at Slow News Day. Hi, who cares? Hi, Glenn Perry. Top up your vitamin D, he says. Absolutely. I'll be talking about that. And Little Rat says, looking good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. No looks. I mean, nothing. Right, let's get into it today. So I've got a lot to talk about. So, hi, everyone. I hope you're all well. I hope that you're all at home. Yeah, stay home is my advice. I suppose let's start that again. I guess I'm going to drop this as a video. I forgot to press record. Hi everyone. So yeah, I hope you're all well, and I hope you're all staying at home despite the confusing nonsense that you're getting from basically every media outlet in the country and your government right now. My advice to you all, seriously, if you value my advice over the lying bastards in the media or the government, and honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you better, because if you don't, I mean, what have you been watching for the last few years if you value their advice over mine? Seriously, stay the fuck at home. That is my advice. Stay the hell at home. Whether you think this is a pandemic or not, and I know some of you do in the chat will say that this is a pandemic. Whether you do or not, stay the hell at home. I'm going to talk more in this live stream about why I think that. But, I mean, you know, whether you think it's a pandemic or not, we agree that COVID-19 is real, right? We agree that the nurses and the doctors aren't making this up and it's real. You know, I know people who've died from it. My friends have had, you know, members of their family die from it. So we know it's real. Now, whether you think it's a pandemic or not, whether you think the statistics are off the chain or whatever, or the government are using it, whatever it is, my advice, honestly, is stay at home. And you know what? keep your goddamn kids there as well. That is my advice. They are talking about opening the schools up very soon, but not the rich schools. I'll come to that in a minute. They're talking about opening the schools up, but opening them up, not opening them up as normal and letting the kids get back to normalcy, but doing this sort of thing. Now, I think this is a school in France. You may have seen other pictures from France as well. They've opened up their schools, and they've even got pictures of a playground outside where they've got a space chalked out on the floor for the kids to go back to school. And even when they're playing in the playground, they're having to isolate from other children. What the fuck are you doing to these children, you stupid assholes? You're going to give them complexes. These kids are going to grow up severely mentally fucking damaged as a result of this. That little girl might end up on the pole as a result of this trauma, this mental trauma that you're putting her through. If you're going to open up the schools, this is what you do. This is what you do. If you open up the schools, and now I know some schools are open right now, I know that, and obviously you've got teachers who are looking after them, because obviously these are, kids who are maybe from vulnerable families or kids who work for essential workers or the NHS, etc. I know that, right? But if you're going to open up the schools, you either do that and have them all go in and basically say, right, okay, we want them to get it, like you would do with the chicken pox. I remember that when I was at school. I caught the chicken pox. They held a fucking party for me so all the other kids could come around and get it. You either do that sort of thing, I can see that argument, or you do my sort of thing and you stay the fuck at home until we've got this under control. I cannot see the point of opening up a school to do this sort of stuff to them. You're going to give this is torture. You monsters, what are you doing? Think of the children, for Christ's sake. I can understand you opening the schools up to protect, for herd immunity and make that argument. I'm not saying that that's the right argument. In fact, I think that's reckless. But I can at least see the argument. I can't see the argument for this. I can't see the argument for this at all. So then you've got to think, well, why are they saying we'll open the schools up in this way? If it makes no sense and you're going to traumatise kids like that little girl there, why are you opening up the schools? Why are you talking about it? You want to get back to some sort of normalcy? Well, first of all, kids are sticky, greedy little, grubby little shits. They get all over the place. I've heard people say, oh, they're not super spreaders. They fucking are. They're filthy. They're horrible. I hate kids, especially other people's, and I've got none. That's by the by. But the rich schools aren't opening. They're not talking about opening, the private schools until September, until the new school year. So why are they going to open the comprehensives? Why are they talking about opening the comprehensives? Is it so, I don't know, the parents of those children can go back to work for the elite? The elite who are at home right now. I say elite, not even the elite, the people with jobs who are at home right now. One of the people that have the 40% of bullshit jobs, as David Graeber would say. Well, they're at home right now, getting 80% of their wages paid. So we've got to send the kids back to school for what? So we can get the economy back on track? Is that why we've got to send the kids back to school? Why? Let me remind you that the people who are saying that we've got to open the schools now, they want your kids to go back to school so then you can go back to work as your hairdresser or their nannies or as a barista so you can serve them coffee, or, their secretaries because you're their secretary and you do all their work for them. And they don't have to work then. They can sit at home. You know, the people with bullshit jobs and the elite, they can sit at home whilst you do all the work and all your kids and whatever you become carriers of the disease and give it your parents and they'll die. Or, you see what I mean? This virus, whether you think it's a pandemic or not, it's not going to go away all of a sudden. You know, I read a statistic the other day saying only 1 in 400 people, according to the antibody testing they've done, has actually got COVID in this country. That is not a high amount. So if that does get higher, remember they said 60% of the nation will probably be infected like this. It's trying to stop the wind. A lot of people are going to die. We're not going to be able to cope. So why are you talking about sending your kids back to school? Is it so life can get easier for the people who have got lots of money and they can protect their money then? Because it's all in this fugazi that's the stock market. Let me remind you that these are the same people who, you know, got bailed out when $1 trillion was injected into the stock market. And then they've made out like bandits ever seen. We've got to go back to school and get the economy going for them, have we? The top 100 people have tripled their wealth. The richest 100 people have tripled their wealth in the last 10, 12 years. That's not a coincidence that they've done that in years of austerity. There's something considerably broken with this system, wouldn't you say? I wouldn't send my kids to school at all. Not a chance. Not a goddamn chance. If I had kids, and we talked about this, me and my partner did, there's not a goddamn chance in hell we would send our kids back to school for quite some time. We would homeschool them. Absolutely certain of that we would. And you know what? There's more than one reason. There's more than the coronavirus to do that. Because, hey, Labour could get in next. And if your kids go to a comprehensive school and Labour get in, all they're going to get taught about is how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust in World War II. And how it's probably anti-Semitic, according to them, if you mention that the majority of those were Russian. You see my point. My advice, honestly, stay the fuck at home. Keep your kids there too. At least until they've got this thing under control. Hit the like it's rolled up and passed to you, says Slow News Day. Thanks a lot, man. By the way, Slow News Day, he and I are on different. We think totally different about this pandemic, but I doubt very much you'll disagree with me on, you know, I'm fucked if you think that we should go back for the economy, the good of the economy. It doesn't exist, guys. It's a thing we made up. It's something I've seen a lot of actually during this pandemic and over the last 4 weeks, and it's not good to see. There's too much blame game going on. There's too much blaming this person or that person or this country or that country. There's too much of it, and there's not enough common sense. Not only is there too much blame game, but there's too much, looking for the government to tell us what to do. No, the government aren't going to tell you what to do. Boris Johnson's at the head of it. They haven't got a fucking clue. We need to use our common sense here. And our media should be actually instilling that message into the nation as well. We need to use our common sense. For instance, there's been a hell of a lot of people I've seen on Twitter screaming, oh, what about those with depression? Keeping them at home, keeping those people at home, those people who've got depression, this is going to be bad for them. We need to open up the economy again and kill them. All right, okay. What about those with other mental health problems like PTSD? We need to open up the economy again because those people with PTSD are going to be at home and they're struggling with PTSD. What about the fact that isolating people at home and this isolation is not good? We need to open up the economy again and get back to work. All of this shit is not helping. It's not. It really isn't. I don't think people have thought it through, because what would help all of those people is advice on how to look after your immune system. And I don't think there's been enough of it. I really don't. The BBC have had a little bit of a go at it, but it's 100 to 1. The stories are. It's one story about your health and 100 stories about how the government have fucked this up. We know the government have fucked this up. The government are the government and they fuck everything up. Tell us, media, help us. So I'm the media, so it seems I've got to tell you, hey, look after your fucking immune system, because the statistics on this COVID-19 death rate are horrific if you are in certain categories. If you are diabetic, yeah, you really need to isolate yourself. I saw a statistic. This is from NHS England. Let me just get it. A third of all deaths in the UK, 1/3 of all deaths so far that are COVID-19 related, are people who have had diabetes. 1/3 are people who are diabetic. Obesity is also something that is extremely common in people who have died from COVID-19 and really suffered with it. As are people who are vitamin D deficient. These are all things that the media should be screaming at you, making you aware of. There hasn't been enough of this. If you are a smoker, my advice to you is, I know it's fucking hard. I only quit last year. I've only been a non-smoker for 12 months. Get a vape. Mix your own liquid and try and get the nicotine down each time you fill up your bottle. That's what I've done, and I now don't vape hardly at all, because I got to the stage where there's no nicotine in it at all. And that's the thing that you're addicted to, the nicotine. You're not addicted to the tar and the other toxic shit in the cigarette. And that's the stuff that fucking kills you. So yeah, get a vape if you can. Try and stop smoking. I know it's hard, but if I can do it, honestly, anybody can. And the benefits, your body will really thank you for it, honestly. The other thing I will say is change your diet. Try and eat less meat. We're going to all have to try and eat less meat anyway, and try and go. My advice would be try and move towards a Mediterranean style diet. Get some information off it from the internet. It's less red meat, more white meat and fish, and way more vegetables. And it's something that I've been doing a hell of a lot of, especially since I've met my partner, because she's from the Mediterranean, her family are, and that's basically what she eats. That's her diet. And you've probably seen the difference in the way I look because of what I eat. You really are what you eat. Go back and look at my videos from 2 years ago. You will see somebody who has got a bad diet and is a heavy smoker and drinker. I'm 2 years older now. I look a hell of a lot younger than I did back then. Go and look. I'm not going to, bang on about it because I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying to you, listen, I know the benefits of it. And the third thing I will say is advice to boost your immune system is start exercising and get outside doing it. Because you're going to get your vitamin D that way as well. And the sun is glorious. I hear we're in for a heat wave in the UK in the coming weeks. Get out. I'm going to tell you this, and again, this is not to brag, this is not to impress you, but to impress upon you that you can do this, okay? I'm not doing this to boost myself up. I'm impressing upon you that you can do this too. get out and start exercising. The first time you do vigorous exercise, if you've not done it for a while, like was the case with me 3 or 4 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and you do it and you push yourself the first time, you are going to be in pain. First of all, that's if you can get outside. I know a lot of you a lot of you out there can't, because you've got an underlying health condition. And for those people, I feel so bad. Anything I can do to help you, really, you know. But if you can get outside, you owe it to those people to do what you can to boost your immune system. You know, Nikki and my moderator, Nikki, she's not going to be able to go outside for a year. She's not, until she can be vaccinated. She cannot go outside. She cannot even get in contact with more than 2 people. There's 2 people who she can become in contact with. That's it. So if you can get outside and you can move around, please do it. You know, the first time you do vigorous exercise, it can be painful, as I know. It's called DOMS, I hear, delayed onset muscle syndrome, where your muscles really are like, they punish you for not taking care of them for years. But after that, it gets easier. And I've decided that I'm going to try and run a 10K on my birthday, which is around the end of June. So I've got about 6 weeks to train for it. I started with a 3K run. That killed me. A 3K run with some exercises in between. It killed me. I was dead for 2 days. Now, what I did out there 3 weeks ago that killed me, I did today as a recovery day. And I've got a 5K, 6K run to do tomorrow to train for. It's really amazing how quickly you can get fit. And I was not the fittest person in the world, but it's amazing how quickly you can get fit and how good it makes you feel. And honestly, you're going to have to do it if you want to stay healthy going forward. Because even if we do get over COVID, with climate change and with those, the ice melting, as they say, and all, these diseases are going to get more prevalent going forward, and we really need to stay healthy to be able to fight them. If you do that, what I've noticed is something else that you get as a side effect of looking after yourself and exercising more. Something I've noticed is, am I sleeping well? I am sleeping so well. Better than I've slept in decades. Because I'm exercising and dieting, etc., and looking after myself. This is what I've been doing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Why you haven't seen much of me. So please, if you can get out there, look after your immune system, exercise, but stay safe. You know, whenever I'm running, I make sure I give people a wide berth and be nice to everybody, and we'll get through this. But stay at home. If you can, work from home. Look after your immune system. That's my advice. For what it's worth, that's my advice. Rob, thank you very much. $13.99 Canadian in the super chat. Thank you, Gordon. Please keep doing whatever you can to save Julian Assange. I will do, Rob. There's obviously not much we can do. There's not much we can do at the moment because obviously he's all the way down there and we're stuck. But we can still send letters. We can still, force our MPs. If obviously, I've showed in recent videos how in other videos you can go and look how there are websites you can go to just to fill in an automated form. So it's really easy for you to contact your MP. Yeah, Poopy Cakes says, I first saw Gordon on Romper Cone's show. This is great. Thanks, Poopy Cakes. Thank you. Yeah, I love Romper Cone. I love him. I was a little bit starstruck, to be honest, on that. A little bit. He's kind of like, yeah, we had a good chat afterwards. He's a nice guy, really good. A lot of respect for that guy. I had somebody on Twitter. I think it was in one of my mentions that they asked me if I was going to this lockdown process, this anti-lockdown process that was in Hyde Park on Saturday. Now, as it happens, I was actually in London on the weekend. So you may be thinking, well, why didn't I go to the lockdown protest to see, Piers Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn's brother, get arrested and report on that? Well, here's why. Because I can almost guarantee you this, that at least one person who went to that anti-lockdown protest in Hyde Park will have contracted COVID-19 from it and either die themselves or pass it on to somebody who will. And that's why I didn't go. And more to the point, why is it an anti-lockdown process when we're not under lockdown anymore? The government are pretty much just saying, use your common sense right now, aren't they? Go back to working if you can, but use your common sense. So why are you protesting a lockdown that we're not under? Surely the time to protest the lockdown was while we're under lockdown. It made no sense to me, and that's why I didn't go to that protest in Hyde Park and cover it. Because, why? I'm not mental. I know I'm not too afraid about catching this virus myself. I think, I'll probably be fine. But I don't want to give it my mother. People know she spent 2 weeks in hospital very recently. Her immune system's going to be low. I don't want to give it her. I like seeing my mum every now and then. It's bad enough that I can't even go near her and I have to talk to her from 20 foot away. But I still don't want to give it her. So that's why I didn't go to that protest. Somebody there is going to get the virus from that. And they're either going to die themselves or they're going to pass it on to people. We saw it happen in America, remember? When they carried on telling people to vote. And then it turned out that people who went and voted died of it. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if in a few weeks we're reporting somebody who went there at that anti-lockdown protest and died from it as well. And it will give me no joy to tell you I was right again. No joy whatsoever. Hi everybody, I wanted to show you this because this is from the Beeb, Auntie Beeb. Soy and vegetable costs rise as fuel price drops. This is obviously as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. And the price of veg is going up, they're saying. The UK's inflation rate fell in April to its lowest since August 2016 as the economic fallout of the first month of the lockdown hit prices. The consumer price index, blah, 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 load of bollocks. But basically what it explains in this article, I won't go into depth on it, but what it explains is, the price of veg is going up. Now, I have a theory as to why this is. And I think it's a pretty simple one. And I haven't seen anywhere that's made this connection yet, but I'm going to make it here. I think the reason the cost of veg is going up is because that's the food group that we import a hell of a lot of in this country. 50% of all our fruit and veg is actually imported from abroad. My dog looks like she's... Those are my eyes, by the way. It looks like my eyes are superimposed on my dog, look. Down there in the corner. Sorry. Yeah, we import about 50% of our veg. That's why it's going up, I think. Going forward, if we're going to become more self-reliant, we're going to need to grow more of our own veg, I think. About 80% of our meat is grown at home, only about 20% is imported. And from what I can tell of our food overall, about 75% of it is actually grown in this country, or we import it and it's food that cannot be grown over here or is very difficult to. Things like coffee, bananas, exotic fruit like mangoes, etc. You know, that are difficult to grow over here. That's not to say that we can't in a enclosed environment or not. But if you include those food groups, which we do import from things like the Caribbean, and Sri Lanka, etc., 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 which we should be able to continue importing in whatever global situation we face in the next decades. It's about 75% of our food is actually grown or comes from this country. That needs to, it's 61%, I think, without the coffee and those other foods. We're going to need to do more of it. We're going to need to grow more veg at home, and hopefully going forward I will be reporting more on this, because I recently saw a video where there was a place in, I think it was in London, in Croydon, I think they said, where it was an old World War II bomb shelter, and they've actually converted it into a facility that grows vegetables on top of each other. It grows watercress. I'll show a video of it here so you can see what I mean. And I want to try, if I can, to go and see these facilities, because this facility that I saw down in Croydon, it was 2 tons of vegetables, 2 tons of food a month was coming from this underground facility. We're going to have to do more of this going forward, and we're going to have to look more at changing our diet, unfortunately, because the way we're eating is not sustainable. So I'll be looking at that going forward, and you'll be seeing more videos on that, and hopefully I'll be having interviews with people who know more about this stuff, and what the food growing, the way, I'll say that again, shall I? And I'll maybe be able to talk to people who will be able to give us a window into how our food is going to be grown in the future. So stay tuned on that. The price of food, guys, is on the rise. Think about it. The price of vegetables is on the rise. They do say that, what was it Stalin or Lenin, one of those, they did say that any society is only 3 skip meals away from anarchy. They better make sure that if shit goes down, that people are fed. They better. Thank God that they stockpile for Brexit, is all I will say. Because I think we might need that food and medicine, and I hope to God that we stockpiled as much as they said we did. We might gonna bloody need it. I need to show you something. Hi everyone. I have said over and over and over on this channel that we bailed out the banks in 2008 to the tune of about £1 trillion. I've said that over and over, right? And I've said over and over that we basically bailed out the banks to the tune of £1 trillion, and they have made out like bandits ever since. The richest 100 people have tripled their wealth in that time in the United Kingdom. However, is it true? Well, according to this website, fullfact.org, what I have been telling you all along is untrue. So, this is the claim, and this is the claim that I have made over and over, that we spent just over £1 trillion bailing out the banks after the financial crisis. And what fullfact.org say is this: no, it's not true. We didn't spend just over £1 trillion bailing out the banks in 2008. Actually, the total government spend was £137 billion, they say. Most of this has been paid back, and around £27 billion of it is still outstanding. Around £1 trillion worth of financial guarantees were provided to investors, but these were promises designed to restore confidence in the banks, not cash for spending. Okay. What they don't say there, of course, is The way it was paid back was with austerity, which has cost about 140,000 deaths. But no, according to fullfact.org, we didn't spend £1 trillion bailing out the banks in 2008. What they actually did was pump £1 trillion into a Ponzi scheme that we call the financial system to fool people into believing it's working. And then the poorest people in society had to pay for it with punishing austerity over the last 12 years. That's killed over 140,000 people. There you go. So I've got to reframe it, and I've got to say that in the future. Guys, I want to say this now and be on the record as saying this right now. Whatever happens, the coronavirus, nobody can tell me that COVID-19 caused the imminent global financial crash. Nobody is going to be able to tell me that. Not a single person. We never fixed the financial crash of 2008. If we are about to see the financial crash of all crashes like they say we are, and we're about to hit depression-like levels, whilst we've got an economy that's not generating anything, and we're about to see 30-40% unemployment, don't let them tell you it was COVID-19 that fucking caused it. It wasn't. This financial system and this financial crash was always going to fail, and it was always going to happen. Remember, I have been reporting since November that the Fed in America have been pumping trillions into the overnight repo markets because banks haven't got enough money to lend each other it. COVID-19 has come at the same time as a financial crash, that's all. It's just the big straw that broke the camel's back. Granted, okay, the bale of hay that broke the camel's back. Camels are bloody strong. They should be able to carry a bale of hay. You get my point. COVID-19, all it's done is it's given the powers that be that created this Ponzi system that we call the financial system, and Wall Street and the stock market, etc. It's just give them something to blame. It's give them a convenient thing to blame the financial crash on. It was always going to happen. It was always on the cards. The system is fixed. It's not broken. It's fixed. It's fixed for the 0.1%. These crashes are built in to the system. It's always going to happen. Whenever it does, they're the ones who make off with all the money. Don't let them do it again. That's my advice. I need to talk about Russiagate. Oh, super chats. HRK, what's that? Is that Hong Kong? Is it HRK? HRK 100. Thank you, Mario Jukic. That's very kind of you for the HRK 100, however much that is. Avoiding anything is hard, but people who think they are above everyone else are more annoying. This is very true. People who do think they are above everyone else and think that their shit don't stink. They sure are annoying. Thank you for that. Thanks very much, Mario. I really appreciate it. I need to talk about Russiagate. For those of you that don't know, I've been on top of this story right from the very beginning, right from when I started this channel. And my reporting on it is, you would say, probably the opposite of what the mainstream media in the UK has been on it, in that they got it wrong and I've got it right. Okay, what am I talking about? Well, we need to revisit 2016. Remember 2016, everyone? Remember the good old days of 2016? Oh dear. So apparently, what the media have told us, and what the FBI have told us, and what the DFC have told us over and over again is, Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. Russia elected him. Russia hacked the DNC. Russia gave those documents Julian Assange. Julian Assange then released them because he's a Russian puppet helping Donald Trump become president. Therefore, he's not legitimate. Hashtag not my president. Hashtag don't grab my pussy. You see the point. That's what we've been told. And it was all Russia's fault because they hacked the documents from the DNC and then gave them WikiLeaks. Now, as I have said all along, it's complete and utter rubbish. And there is somebody who has made a tweet about this, and somebody who has got this right all along as well. His name is Alan Marte. He has won awards for it, and he broke it down in tweets of what has happened recently with regards to CrowdStrike. Now, for those of you who don't know, CrowdStrike is the company that dealt with the DNC's servers. They're the people who analysed the servers and told the FBI, yeah, it's Russia that did it, Gov. That is what we've been told by the media. Okay? So CrowdStrike, they told us it was all Russia that did it. Now, as Alan says in this tweet, I'll read it for you. He says, there's a quote from Assange. Maybe someone can find it. I can't right now. I remember this. It's a video that I've shown many times on this channel of him talking to Afshin Rattansi. And Alan Marte recalls that he's saying it's possible that many different actors, including state actors, got inside the DNC system. But that doesn't mean they actually stole everything. Again, he's right again, Julian Assange is. Has he ever been wrong, this man? He said in the interview with Afshin Rattansi, I remember it, that the DNC, the RNC, these are political parties of the biggest superpower in the world. There are many people, therefore, both state and non-state actors, that would like to find out what they have, what secrets they have on their emails and on their servers. Therefore, he theorized that the DNC and the RNC was probably under attack from multiple people, state actors and non-state actors. And he said, from what I understand, the DNC's cybersecurity is, quote, like Swiss cheese, end quote. Therefore, anybody could have hacked these documents. Anybody could have got in. Didn't have to be Russia. Could have been lots of people. And what Alan is pointing to there is what I've pointed to in the past. They may have got inside the system, but that doesn't actually mean they stole anything. Well, this has all come to a head recently because the United States government have released the transcripts of the FBI the Senate Intelligence Committee, I believe it is, questioning certain people with regards to what happened with this hack of the DNC. And one of the people that the committee were questioning was the head of CrowdStrike himself, Mr. Henry, I think his name is. And Aaron's very nicely here give us the details of what was in that transcript. And remember, this is obviously the United States, I think it's the Senate Intelligence Committee, questioning the chief guy of CrowdStrike. Now remember, what I have said all along is this. It doesn't matter whether it was hacked or not. The DNC may have been hacked. It was probably hacked 100 times, 1,000 times by multiple people. But what I have said all along is, as it actually says in the FBI report, if you read the small print, that there's nothing to say that the DNC emails that showed that showed that the Democrats were all liars. Yes, that's what it showed. The Democrats were all liars. And everything that was screaming that Hillary Clinton was corrupt, oh, it was true. Yeah, they were rigging it all. It proved they were liars. It proved they were rigging their own election. It proved that they were slanting the table away from Bernie Sanders and towards the anointed one, Hillary Clinton, possibly the only person that could lose to Donald Trump. And it was my theory and many other people that, this was the blame game. It was blame Russia, because then it takes the attention away from the fact that we lost an election by basically rigging our own election and putting in the only candidate that could lose to an orange game show host. We've said all along that there was no proof that CrowdStrike could prove nothing, and people like Bill Binney have said all along, yeah, if Russia did it, they would have the proof. The FBI would. We wouldn't need CrowdStrike. So why are the FBI relying on CrowdStrike? Why are the FBI relying on people who saw servers and the FBI didn't demand the servers? Donald Trump has said this over and over. He said it in tweets, and the media have ridiculed him for it. They've ridiculed him for being right. Right now, with this Obamagate, as they're calling, blowing up, because it's been speculated, it's coming out that looks like Obama ordered it all. Obamagate, they're calling it. All the liberal media they're losing their minds. Even ridiculing people like Joe Rogan, who's saying Obamagate is real, and ridiculing him. The media. They don't know what's going on in their own fucking country. Saying nothing makes sense anymore because Joe Rogan believes in Obamagate. Well, it turns out it's just as I reported. It's all bollocks. Complete bollocks. This is the transcript. This is the senator from Utah asking Mr. Henry, who is the head of CrowdStrike, a question. He said this because he was repeating some earlier questioning. He said, "You said something and I want to restate it and tell me if I'm wrong, if I could. You said, I believe, talking about the DNC computer, you had indications that data was prepared to be exfiltrated, but no evidence it actually left." Remember what Assange said? What Aaron Marte... There's a quote from Assange. He said, they got inside the system, but that doesn't mean they actually stole it, i.e. exfiltrated. And Mr. Henry, did I write that down correctly? He says, Mr. Henry says yes. So there's no actual evidence the Russians stole the emails. There's no actual evidence anybody stole the emails, let alone the Russians, just as I and many others said all along. Mr. Stewart of Utah, congressman I think he is, goes on and says, okay, what about the emails that everyone is so knowledgeable of? Were there also indicators that they were prepared but not evidence that they were exfiltrated? And he goes on to say, Mr. Henry, there's not evidence that they were actually exfiltrated. There's circumstantial evidence, but no evidence they were actually exfiltrated. It goes on. But you have a much lower degree of confidence. Now he's questioning, okay, there's no proof that anything was taken, but that something was prepared to be exfiltrated. That's what you're saying. And Mr. Henry says, yes. And then Mr. Stewart says, but you have a much lower degree of confidence that this data actually left than you do, for example, that the Russians were the ones who had breached the security. And Mr. Henry says there is circumstantial evidence that that data was exfiltrated off the network, refusing to answer the question. The highlighted bit is down the bottom there. Oh, take my image away. We said that the data left based on the circumstantial evidence, Mr. Henry said. That was a conclusion that we made. So it's a little bit convoluted, and he's using really weird ways of actually saying sentences there and double negatives, like that we haven't got proof that it wasn't exfiltrated and stuff like that. Basically what this means is this. Just as I said, CrowdStrike are talking bollocks. What they're saying is this. CrowdStrike are saying all the indicators are indicating and all the pointers are pointing to the fact that the Russians got stuff ready to extract and steal. And then the congressman's gone and said, and did they? And I went, no. What? And then you can see Mr. Shirt says, again, so let me get this straight. Let me show you. I can honestly, if you actually read between the lines here, I think he's obviously saying this. I think he's saying this. You said, I believe, talking about the DNC computer, you had indications that data was prepared to be exfiltrated, but no evidence actually left. Did I write that down correctly? Yes. So in other words, all of this for 4 years, just as I've been saying, has been bollocks. Complete and utter bollocks. It's all saying things in a way that you can then use it to construct a narrative that maybe can blame Russia. That's all it is. It's constructing a narrative for the media to then go and manufacture consent for God knows what with Russia. You see my point? It's all bollocks. They've said the indicators are indicating and the pointers are pointing to them getting something ready for it to be exfiltrated and stolen. And then the congressman's gone and said, so was it stolen? And they've gone, no. All right, it wasn't stolen, but the people who prepared it, are we absolutely sure that this was the Russian government? And what have CrowdStrike said? Well, all the indicators are indicating that it was Russia and all the pointers are pointing to Russia, but we can't actually guarantee that it's Russia. In other words, they have no fucking clue who it was, just as I and many others have been saying all along. And just as many others have been saying all along, basically anybody with any fucking common sense in their head and 2 brain cells rattling around in their head, if Russia had hacked the DNC and had exfiltrated, as they say, or stole those fucking emails, the FBI would know and they would be able to fucking prove it, just as Bill Binney and anybody who works at the NSA could fucking tell you, including Snowden. Yes, if you haven't read Permanent Record, go and read it. If the DNC was hacked, if those documents were stolen, the FBI could tell you exactly how, exactly when, and from exactly fucking where. The programs are called X-Keyscore and Prism. They use them to prove to you that it was North Korea that hacked into Sony a few years ago. If Russia had hacked the DNC and given those documents to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks to publish, they would have been able to prove it immediately, the same way they did with the Sony hack. It's all a smokescreen, as I said. Some people will say it's a smokescreen for the fact that he shall not be named was killed. Maybe because they think, just as it says in the small print of that FBI document, there's nothing to say actually that these emails couldn't have walked out of the front door by somebody who had copied them to a goddamn thumb drive. And the transfer rates of the document download match the transfer rates of a download to a thumb drive almost perfectly, as Bill Binney, the NSA genius who was part of the duo that created ThinThread and literally wrote the NSA book on metadata. And anybody who asks a question about that guy who shall not be named, who was killed, that young DNC staffer, is immediately smeared as a conspiracy theorist. What does that tell you? Yeah. Okay. I'm sure many of you will say, oh, no, that's just a coincidence that DNC staffer was shot in a robbery that they took nothing. Yeah, okay, sure. And Jeffrey Epstein killed himself without anybody's help whatsoever. It's all bollocks, people. Obamagate's real. Whether anything will come of it, I don't know. His reputation will probably end up getting a bit smirched. You know, a bit besmirched, that's all. You know, all he did was spy on an incoming president. Basically, illegally breaking several oaths and constitutional rights. But, what do you care about your constitution? You never care about that when they're coming to take your guns. A robbery where nothing got taken except his laptop, say Slow News Day. Wow. Oh, totally nothing out the ordinary there, is there, mate? No, completely fine. Oh shit! Did I just stop streaming? I hope I didn't just stop streaming. I think I just clicked the wrong button. No, I'm still streaming, thank God. Okay, so I need you. Start again, shall we? I want to take you back to 2008. And obviously you remember 2008, there was something, minor happened back then called the financial crash, the global financial crash. And I'm going to try and explain. Let me start this again. I mentioned the housing crisis, the global financial crash of 2008 quite often on this channel. And for those, it struck me the other day, that many of you don't actually, can't put it in your heads as to actually what caused it. So what I'm going to try and do in this is explain in layman terms exactly what happened and what caused the financial crash in 2008. So, how did it happen? Well, what happened was the banks and Wall Street, what they did was they sold a hell of a lot of subprime mortgages to people that, let's face it, they pretty much knew were going to default on. And then they set up a credit rating agency to give those subprime mortgages and the people with them a 5-star rating, and then bet on those mortgages to be defaulted upon. That's how they did it. Not only did they give a shitload of mortgages away to people that they knew would probably default on, they then made out that those mortgages were given to people with a 5-star credit rating, and then behind the scenes bet against them actually paying those loans back. And that is how the financial crisis happened. They literally made a bubble out of thin air, created a shitload of money, took off with a lot of it, and left you and I, the taxpayer, to pay for it all with a series of years, over a decade, of punishing austerity. In America, they didn't do the austerity that we did over here, but they pretty much did it. They did the same. They gave away $1 trillion or something like that to the financial system. And as I pointed out earlier in this stream, and as fullfact.org say, what we actually did in 2008 was give around £1 trillion worth of financial guarantees to investors, basically to say to people, this Ponzi scheme, yeah, it's not a Ponzi scheme and we're going to give it a shitload of money to make you think that it's not. And we went, okay then. The people who caused it, of course, the people who caused this crash, they got away with it scot-free. And the people who didn't cause this crash, the poorest in this country, they're the people who had to pay the money back. Now, when I say they got away scot-free, that's not completely true, because the largest bank, the bank that had to have the largest bailout in the world, was the Royal Bank of Scotland. And you may remember there was a guy at the head of it that called Fred Goodwin. And yeah, he went to prison for no time whatsoever. He had to give his knighthood back. That was it. That's all. That's the repercussions. That's all the repercussions that were doled out to the people in this country that were responsible for over a decade of punishing austerity and over 140,000 deaths as a result of it in this country. Now, of course, many people around that time were saying, why are you giving it to the banks? Why are you giving it the banks? These are the bastards that actually cause the problem. The people that need bailing out right now are the people. Why don't you just give it to the people? We can't do that, of course. That would make sense. So there was an analogy by a guy called Mark Blythe. He's talked about this. It was somebody else's analogy, I think. He just recites it a lot. But he basically said what they did in 2008 is the equivalent of this. The kettle's dry. People, you know, if you imagine water is money and the kettle are people, the kettle's dry. You need to put money in the kettle. So rather than taking the kettle over to the tank, over to the sink, and turning on the tap, or faucet, as they call it in America, and filling the kettle up, what we decided to do, and America, simultaneously in 2008, is get a fireman's high-pressure hose, jam it in everywhere in the letterbox, turn it on full, and spray as much water into the house as possible in the hope that some of it would land in the kettle. Of course, very little of it did end up in the kettle. And actually what was happened is the hallway and, you know, the bedroom and the front room, i.e. the bank and Wall Street and large companies, they swallowed all the money up and all the water. And that's the way it's carried on for a decade. It never left us. It was just put on pause for a decade until it came around and bit us in the ass again. And guess what? It looks like it's here, because while it's been about $1 trillion that we spent in 2008 bailing out the banks, over here, I say bailing out the banks, I shouldn't say that, rather injecting into the stock markets so that everybody keeps believing in the Ponzi scheme. That's what it is from now on, people, not bailing out the banks, according to fullfact.org. But over here in this country, they've put aside about $300 billion so far. That's how much it's going to cost so far as a result of this COVID-19 outbreak. So they're saying as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. Over in America, however, they've decided to do things a little bit different. Over in the UK, of course, they've decided to bail out, you know, people this time rather than the banks. During this crisis, they're paying 80% of people's wages. They're paying 80% of the self-employed's wages. They've obviously given, I think, $300 billion in small business loans. And I know that there are thousands of businesses just in my city that have taken loans averaging, I think, £11,000 from the government during this period. Plus, obviously, the government paying people's wages as well. So this time round, during this crisis, the UK are doing things a little bit different. They're filling up people's kettles by the look of it, and they run dry. Over in America, a little bit different, because as I've reported, they were already pumping money into the stock market and into the repo market back as far as November, December. So they are already in trouble. This COVID-19 thing, there's no money. The kettles are dry again. People have got no jobs. They're heading for 40% unemployment. They haven't done what we've done in the UK. Rather than try and give people money and help people out this time, they've essentially took what they did in 2008 and times it by 1,000. Because they are giving away trillions, and I mean trillions in dollars to companies. Just to companies, to the richest people in the country, while the poorest people get nothing. They've promised them a $1,200 check, apparently. A check! A check! When was the last time you had a check? I think I've had 2 checks in about 30 years. And then maybe another 600 I think they're fighting for now, but that's it. Meanwhile, trillions are getting given away to all sorts of companies who can then obviously use it for stock buybacks to bump up the stock market again. Essentially what they've done is not the fire hose, scenario this time. What they've, I think, done in America is say, listen, people's kettles are dry. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to line the San Andreas fault with as much TNT as humanly possible. Then we're going to blow it up in the hopes that the earthquake that ensues will create a tidal wave of water so high, i.e. money, so high that it washes over the United States and fills up everybody's kettles. Sooner or later, this is a ridiculous idea, of course. Ridiculous. And I'm watching on with horror as to what happens next in America. I really am. I feel I'm worried for them. I've got friends in America. I am worried for them because I don't think it's going to be an easy time over there. Sooner or later, the people in America are going to realise that it would be really easy for the Fed to just open up an account for every kettle in the United States directly at the Fed and fill it with water. Sooner or later, people are going to realise that. And then they're going to start asking, well, why have you decided against doing that and instead creating a tidal wave and ruining the San Andreas fault and probably most of Eastern California? That's America for you. And this is 2020, the year of the insane. And I want to end on something else that's insane in America. There's a guy in the United States who you, I'm sure, are aware of. His name is Ben Shapiro. And he's a right-wing commentator, YouTuber, radio DJ, blah, 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 blah. You may remember him, if you're in the UK, from the time he went on the BBC and got his ass handed to him by a half-awake Andrew Neil. Enjoy this. Right here, when I drop this video, I'm gonna drop, remember Future Gordon, clip in the BBC clip from Andrew Neil. You remember that? You remember when Andrew Neil handed Ben Shapiro his ass? He was hardly awake. Andrew Neil, right-wing conservative, called a liberal lefty, I think, by Ben Shapiro. Of course, Andrew Neil, basically, who would be around about where Margaret Thatcher is on the political scale, of course, would be a lefty liberal to Ben Shapiro. Because let's face it, he's a fascist. He's so far right, it's unbelievable. He's a fascist bootlicker, as Andrew Neil pointed out and excellently described on that interview. The man is totally manufactured. He's totally signal boosted. His success has totally been, manufactured by people with lots of money who have been putting money behind him in advertising, etc., and boosting up his platform. Because he either has no sense of history or irony, or both, to go along with his, no sense of morals. I want to show you this as a result of his... I want to show you this as an example that he's got no sense of history or irony at all. There's a guy called Ian Bremmer who tweeted this: Putin's approval rating down to 59%, his lowest in 20 years. And Ben Shapiro retweeted it and said this: breaking news, 41% of Russians have now committed suicide after plunging from fifth story windows. Obviously saying that, hey, anybody who opposes Putin, they get killed. Right. The lack of awareness and lack of his history and lack of irony and in that tweet is amazing. First of all, Putin's approval rating 59 to a low of 59%, his lowest in 20 years. Ben Shapiro's hero, Donald Trump, would literally shoot somebody in Fifth Avenue in broad daylight to get an approval rating of 59%. He's giddy if it goes over 50. 59% is extremely high as approval ratings go. Extremely high. So for it to be a low in 20 years is one thing. And we are in the middle of a pandemic. I think everybody's approval ratings have gone down. So there's that. And then there's this. Because I'm not sure you'll remember this, Ben, but the powers that be in your country just recently, last year, killed a man who had dirt on powerful people in your country. Do you remember? Guy called Jeffrey Epstein, had dirt on a lot of people in your country, just killed him in broad daylight. He's held in maximum security prison and your country fucking killed him in broad daylight. If that was Putin, your media would have had an absolute field day. And then, well, there's not just the short-term history. Just go back further in history. Just look at it. MLK, JFK, Malcolm X. Along with God knows how many people at home. Whenever you're a threat, Seth Rich, whenever you're a threat to the establishment in the United States, you're gone. You're gone. You think Ben Shapiro? Do you think he mentions that? Of course not. This is why you don't follow people like Ben Shapiro, because they're not consistent. I want to remind you, Ben, your country has been involved in some serious shit. You could look back to all sorts of operations, just the overthrows of other governments for a start, Operation Ajax and all the stuff in Venezuela and all your attempts in Iran. And, how often do the Russians try and overthrow a country? Whereas America does seemingly every week. Sometimes to hilarious conclusions like the Keystone Cops one in Venezuela the other week. You see my point? And then there's all the, let's not forget there's all the secret programs that we found out where you are literally poisoning your own people and killing your own troops, using your own troops as guinea pigs to see, what are the effects of radiation on our own troops. Oh, we killed them. Oh, shame. Never mind. Send the widow a flag. Do you remember this one? Operation Sea Spray. Yeah, this is the one where they, stuck a load of shit in the air, load of poisonous bacteria, and let it go over San Francisco just to see what it would do. See if they could use it as a weapon elsewhere. That's his own fucking country. Ben Shapiro. That's his own country. But somehow somehow, despite the fact that his country is responsible for killing thousands of his people at home who were a threat to the government and not, seemingly, just random people. His own country will kill thousands at home and, let's face it, millions abroad with their horrific foreign policy. Yet somehow, according to Ben Shapiro, it's the Russians. They're the ones who are killing people, Your Honour. Not only does Ben Shapiro have no sense of decency or no sense of a moral compass at all, he also has no sense of history or irony either. Evidently. Well, that's it, everybody. I think I'm done. That's everything I want to do. I think I'm done for the day. Right, everybody. Thanks very much. Look, I love you all. I don't think there's any more super chats that's coming in. Let me check. Not yet. No. Thank you to the people who have, Mario and to Rob. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who supported me. I know that times are hard, so I'm not going to beg for any money. You got my website. You know what to do. Just look after yourselves. Please look after your health. Try and take care of your immune system. Look after your diet. Get as much vitamin D as you can. Get it out. You get that from sunlight. It's the best place for it. If not, please take supplements. If you can't get out, take your supplements. Look after yourself. Take no notice of what these people are saying when they're saying go back to work. They just want you to take risks so that their lives can be easier. Take no fucking notice of them. Stay at home. Look after your friends, your family, and your community, but most importantly, look after your health and look after your immune system. And I shall see you very soon. I fucking love you all. You're all amazing. This is not over. It's not over. This is probably going to get worse. And if the powers that be open this country up too soon, it will do. Stay home. If you can, work from home. I'm going to try now. I've had, time to get my fitness back and look after my health. Now I'm on the right track. Now I can make sure that I'm going to be sending out lots of videos to keep you entertained or screaming at and disagreeing with or whatever. That's what I'm going to do. And I want you to really look after your health. I mean it. I love every one of you, and I don't want any of you to go through what some of my friends have gone through, because to lose people, to lose family members, and to lose those that you love during this, when it could be avoided, it's horrific. Thanks very much, everybody. I love you all. Peace. Take care.